Happy Monday morning to everybody. Appreciate you making us a part of your morning each and every day here on Morning JOX. Conrad Van Order, Damian Mitchell alongside me, and we will be with you for the next hour as we get you caught up on everything you may have missed over the weekend and continue to get you excited for the start of college football season, because last week was obviously SEC Media Days, and we were out there in Atlanta, and that is, I think, in a lot of people's minds, the official kickoff of college football season. And so now you can really taste it now, Damian. We're 5 weeks away from what will be the start of what we hope to be one of the more entertaining college football seasons in recent memory, and we certainly need it based on everything that you now go through. And you know, on one hand, now you get so much that goes on in the offseason that in some ways it makes it feel like it goes by faster because there's just so much going on. But on the other hand, a lot of that stuff is, let's just be honest, not the most fun stuff in the world when we're talking about, legalities and money being, exchanging hands and all of these different things. And what's the college football playoff going to look like? And how many games is the SEC going to play in the future? And all of these things that just kind of, after you talk about them for 6 straight months, kind of give you a little bit of a headache and you just want to watch the games on the field. And we are getting really, really close, Damian, to being able to do exactly just that.
Yeah, we've reached that point, especially probably midweek of the SEC Media Days, where talking season is kind of on the back burner now. Like, now it's time to lock in and get ready for the actual season. But I do think that, I think SEC Media Days kind of gave us a little bit of a break in a way. But I guess you got to hear other voices as far as talking about some of those issues as far as college football playoff and 9-game schedule versus 8-game schedule. But you got a feel for it from each coach, to be honest, and you kind of how their thoughts, and some of them like, well, doesn't really matter. We're already telling you that we already show you that we're the best conference in college football, and you add another conference game. It's okay. Are we going to get respected? Are we going to get that same grace when the committee sits down and has those conversations of strength of schedule and, just kind of reading the bases as far as a lot of different coaches and their perspective. But like you said, it's kind of that, all right, we at least hear it from the coaches of how they feel about their team and how they feel about the program moving forward. But also it's that little bit of dead period before they open up fall camp. So it's like, we got a little bit of it, but we're ready for the real thing.
Yeah, and it'll be here before we know it, about 5 weeks away from the official start of college football season. And we know, especially for a lot of us here, looking forward to Labor Day weekend and that Friday night when you're going to have Auburn and Baylor doing battle. And then, of course, you're going to have Alabama and Florida State on that Saturday. So it'll be here before we know it. But that does bring me to kind of the question that I wanted to pose today that we'll get into in a little bit, but wanted to kind of throw it out there and give people some time to think about it. So if you missed it, and we'll go over it here in a few minutes, but if you missed it on Friday, we got the media ballot or the media poll for the SEC preseason. And so we'll go through and we figured out, who, unsurprisingly, the media voted Texas as the favorite in the SEC, but kind of going through 1 through 16. And, there's some that weren't difficult, right? A lot of people, Texas was an easy number 1, just like for a lot of people, however you wanted to assort them, the Kentuckys and Mississippi States of the world, they were going to be at the bottom. Like, there's some that, everybody pretty much universally agrees on, but really that middle pack, I think is where things get really, really interesting with your Floridas and South Carolinas and Ole Misses and these teams that I think we all kind of look at and go, well, if everything kind of falls their way, we could be talking about a team that wins 9, maybe even 10 games and is in the playoff mix. But you could also see where things maybe don't go those teams' way, and we're looking at a 7-5 type of season for some teams that had high expectations coming in. So with all of that being said, I just kind of want to put out there, who is the team in the SEC that is the hardest for you to kind of get a feel for this upcoming year? Who's the team that, you're just like, I can't figure out what I'm expecting to see out of that team this upcoming year. And I think there's a lot of teams in that middle pack where, you have some people may love, DJ Lagway, like myself, like, oh man, DJ Lagway, he's going to be the greatest Florida Gators quarterback since Tim Tebow potentially. And then you'll have other people that say, isn't that the same kid that couldn't throw until a couple of weeks ago because of his shoulder, and that's who we're banking on? it goes both ways. It just kind of depends on how you see it. So just kind of wanted to throw that out there. And, of course, y'all can chime in at 205-834-9450. Get yourself on the courtesy GMC text line, and we'll dive into that conversation a little bit later. But, yeah, who's your team in the SEC that the one team you just can't really get a read on heading into the season? You don't know what to expect from them, because I think there's a lot of teams that kind of fit that mold for me. And, of course, me and Damian will chime in on that as well. But we did have some action over the weekend. And if you're a Braves fan, well, a couple things. First off, if you're a Braves fan, Friday night was probably pretty fun. That would have been the game that I would have attended if I were to go to a Braves and Yankees game in Atlanta, because that's the way that our schedule worked out with my wife and I. That would have been the only game we could have potentially gone to, and I'm very glad that we didn't, because the Braves did win on Friday. They won 7-3, start off the second half of the season fresh off the All-Star festivities there in Atlanta, but they got a big 7-3 win over the Yankees, and I'll be honest, it was pretty ugly at times, and I'm thinking, okay, this I'm a Yankees fan, for anybody that's listening who doesn't know that. But it was rough. But if you're a Braves fan, you have to feel, okay, like we're starting off the second half the right way. Not that, I don't know how many Braves fans are expecting to get back into the playoff conversation, but hey, you're headed in the right direction. And then you get going on Saturday, and you're like, man, things are looking pretty good. Braves were up 5-0 at one point. They were up, I believe, 7-2 at a different point. And you're thinking, man, things are looking really good. Yet again, we might get a win here. Maybe we're even going to sweep the Yankees to start the second half of the season, Damian. But then the Yankees come back, because guess what happens? The Braves have to go to their bullpen. And when the Braves go to the bullpen, bad things happen for them. And that's exactly how it went on Saturday. So the Yankees found themselves in a situation where they were able to come back, tie the game at 8 in the 8th inning. So at one point in the 5th inning, it was 7-2 Braves. And then in the 8th inning, the Yankees had managed to come all the way back, make it 8-8. Then you go to the top of the 9th inning. The Yankees managed to load the bases, and Trent Grisham hits a grand slam to put the Yankees up 12-8. Michael Harris would have like a fielder's choice there in the bottom of the 9th to bring home a run, make it 12-9, and a little bit more interesting, as the Braves were able to get some traffic on the bases. But they lose on Saturday 12-9 after being up 7-2. So that's an absolutely brutal way to go down on Saturday. And just quick rundown here. So the Braves on Saturday are the first team in the history of Major League Baseball to have their bullpen pitch 5 innings or less of a baseball game and allow 12 or more runs, walk more than 4 batters, allow 4 or more home runs, give up a grand slam, and lose the ball game. All of those things. That was the first time that those things had ever happened in Major League Baseball history, and they all happened on Saturday with the Braves bullpen.
Yeah.
So that's that was a rough way to go out. So they lose 12-9 on Saturday. Then you have the rubber match yesterday, hoping to pull out a series win, and the Yankees took care of business yesterday. And they won 4-2 yesterday to get out of Atlanta with the series win. So unfortunately, what looked like a weekend, it started off well for the Braves, and what looked like might be a pretty good weekend for Atlanta. Ultimately, the Yankees managed to get 2 of 3, and now Atlanta, they get to stay at home as they will welcome in the San Francisco Giants later on tonight. So that's going to be a 6:15 first pitch. You can hear that here on JOX after Mr. Feinbaum gets done later this afternoon. But yeah, rough start for the Braves. They are now 43-55, 12.5 games back in the National League East as it stands right now. So unfortunately, just not the season that I think a lot of Braves fans hope they can forget continues. And you're also 10.5 back in the wild card.
So are we?
It's just not happening.
Are we reaching? Like this is it? Like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think you probably have felt that way if you're a Braves fan, but yeah, it's just.
Yeah, I was wondering if you were holding out hope, but again, it's the first series out of the All-Star break. Like, maybe it can go up from here. I'm trying my best to be positive.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's hard for it to get a whole lot worse, but hey, I'll take it. I mean, my team hadn't been playing super well the last month or so I'll take 2 out of 3 to start off the second half of the year, and we'll be in the postseason. So.
Yeah. You so no Choptober this year?
Probably not. Not looking super great there. Yeah, it is what it is. There is also I forgot about this. You did also have an incident in the game on Saturday where the Braves thought that the Yankees were, I guess, not tipping pitches, but they were communicating that the Braves on the field, we're not talking trash cans and stuff in the dugout.
Okay.
But that they were kind of talking to each other as they were, going up to bat, like, hey, this guy, the pitcher was tipping his pitches for Atlanta, and the Braves got mad. One of their coaches got mad because they thought that Jazz Chisholm was, I guess, on base, and he was doing a gesture that he, I guess he assumed that was him telling the batter what pitch was coming. It led to a sac fly for the Yankees, and they got an RBI off of it, but they were not happy, and they were essentially, according to Jazz, I guess he thought that they were threatening him, or the coach was threatening him and basically telling him, hey, don't do that or we're gonna handle this. And so that ended up being a whole little spat there. So yeah, just not weekend to forget for the Atlanta Braves to say the least.
But they had a great throw by Ronald Acuna on Friday.
They did.
That was exceptional.
One of the best throws I've honestly ever seen in my entire life. Now, granted, if I think it was Bellinger, if he had just slid into the base,
might have been
okay. But that he didn't, and that incredible throw.
It was
absolutely incredible throw there. So that's your recap of what happened in Atlanta this weekend, as the Yankees take 2 of 3 from the Braves. And again, they will now be hosting the San Francisco Giants starting today. They're in Atlanta as well. So it may have been a weekend to forget for the Braves, but it was certainly another weekend to remember for one Scotty Scheffler. Will tell you how he collected his latest major victory next here on Morning JOX. $6:16. Welcome back into Morning JOX here on your Monday morning.
This is your favorite band, isn't it?
Conrad Damian here with you. Yeah, I love Coldplay. Big fan of Coldplay. One of my friends, we were playing golf yesterday, and he just randomly drops this snug. He's like, yeah, me and my wife are going to the Coldplay concert this week. And so we all start laughing, like, ha. He's like, no, I get the joke, but like, no, we are actually going. Apparently, they're playing. I forgot where. I guess they're playing at Bridgestone in Atlanta or in Nashville, excuse me. But yeah, they're playing in Nashville this weekend. So my buddy was like, yeah, it's really a shame because like we're really excited, but now every time we tell everybody, they think we're joking. A, but B, like would have been really cool to be there last week when all that stuff was going down. See, apparently I didn't realize this until I guess over the weekend, but quickly, if you don't know what we're talking about, there was a Coldplay concert last week, and they did a kiss cam thing on the Jumbotron, and they ended up catching the CEO of a company and his head of HR on camera having an affair at the concert, and it turned into this whole big thing. But apparently at the concert, Chris Martin, who's the lead singer of Coldplay, apparently when that happened, like on the microphone at the concert, he goes, oh no, those people are either having an affair or they're really shy. Like, see, I didn't realize that like it got announced to everyone at the stadium or the arena as well. I thought it was just kind of something that took off afterwards, but
that's what was so funny about it is the fact that he's like, they're either having an affair or they're extremely shy.
Yeah,
and of course the social media works quickly,
and it turns out that. I mean, maybe they are shy, but they were definitely having an affair.
Could be a little bit of both.
Yeah, so I hope my friend and his wife have fun at the Coldplay concert this week. That definitely got us all a little off guard. But yeah, I do love Coldplay, and you should too. They're a great band. But we were telling you about the Braves not having a great weekend here to start off the show, but somebody that did have pretty fantastic weekend, I would say, would be Mr. Scotty Scheffler, as he wins the Open Championship over the weekend. So he has now collected his fourth major championship. He is now one away from the all-time career Grand Slam. So the only thing left for him is the U.S. Open, which he tied for second back in 2022. So he has been right there, as close as you could get without winning it. But now he has won the Masters twice, of course, in 2022, 2024, and he has now won the PGA Championship, the Open Championship, both here in 2025. So another fantastic weekend for Scotty Scheffler, as it was really never in doubt. He shot a 64 on Friday. I mean, that's just absolutely absurd right there. But he finishes 17 under for the weekend. He shot 68 or better in every single round. He went 68, 64, 67, 68 for the weekend. Just absolutely fantastic there. He's going to walk away with $3.1 million as well. So he continues to dominate this golf world, man. There's a reason that he's the number one golfer, and going into every single one of these tournaments, it's essentially hard not to pick him to win. And he absolutely showed that over the weekend. But you also had, Xander Schauffele, who he was the winner last year of the Open Championship. He finishes 10 under, tied for 7th. You had Rory at 10 under as well. Bryson DeChambeau, he finishes 9 under. Ricky Fowler there at 8 under. Hideki Matsuyama at 7 under. Dustin Johnson there at 6 under. So a good weekend for a lot of notable names. Spieth, he goes 2 under. Justin Thomas, 3 under, as well as John Rahm there. So a big weekend for a lot of players. Harris English, he ends up coming in second. He's 13 under, 4 strokes behind Scotty Scheffler. But just utter domination from Scotty once again. And yeah, no doubt that he is the best person out doing it right now. And he's been fantastic for a long time, but especially this year, it's just a little bit different.
Yeah, like it's kind of an onslaught, and it's also we're all the same age. It's very surprising. You kind of you know we're here talking about it, and he's out there like you said, just won $3 million, and it's like okay, must be nice being great.
It certainly nice. It certainly pays to be great, and I don't want to. Again, I'm probably going to regret even saying this right now, and I'm not comparing this to it at all. It's not even because I'm aware it's not even close, and we were alive for a good part of it. But since Tiger Woods, I feel like this is probably the most dominant you've had another golfer be since Tiger Woods. Which, again, I'm not saying Scotty Scheffler is anywhere close to what Tiger Woods has accomplished on the golf course because he has a long way to go before that's the case. But, I mean, I'm just thinking back to, like Rory had – I mean, and Rory's obviously a very good golfer, but, he's one of those guys where, he had a while where, it felt like he was going to be that next guy for a while, but it just never – he never really took off the way that I feel like Scotty Scheffler has in the last year or two. Same thing, Spieth had a little moment where he was, kind of the guy it felt like. But yeah, I feel like what we're seeing from Scotty Scheffler now is the best, most locked in we've seen a golfer since like prime Tiger Woods.
It's dominant. Like it's a little bit different. I thought about this too. If you had to compare it to like an NFL player, it's kind of what Patrick Mahomes is doing right now as far as his run where there's other golfers, like there's other football players that are, Joe Burrow has beaten them. Jalen Hurts has a Super Bowl over him. But when the end-all be-all, it's going to have to go through him. Yeah. The same with Scotty. It's anytime you see his name on the card, it's, well, if he has a lead, it's been good. It's been good, y'all. Everybody's fighting for second place, essentially. But I think it's fair to say that, it's the closest thing to Tiger that we've seen. And again, he's only 29 years old where this could last a long time. But I do think that what Scotty has done is, I mean, he's separated himself to amongst all of it. I mean, you got to think he overcoming some real adversity. You remember that morning we were up here and he got jammed up.
I was seeing him get arrested. Yeah,
he got jammed up, and look at all he's done is just turn his life around and done nothing but have great success moving forward.
Yeah,
it's a real comeback story, dog.
Sure, yeah,
it's a great comeback.
That was a lot of adversity that he faced there that morning, but I mean, nonetheless, it's absolutely remarkable. I mean, even Rory, yesterday after the tournament was over, doing his media availability, and he said, I mean, you could probably say that in the history of golf, there's maybe a handful of players that have had the stretch that he has had really over the last 2 years or so, or 2.5 years, going back to when he won his first Masters, really, and just that span of time, it's really, really remarkable what he's been able to do, and it doesn't look like anything's going to slow him down anytime soon. So it's just it's one of those things where it's a privilege to get to watch things like that. When you get to watch athletes and golfers, at that high of a level, it's certainly very, very entertaining. So good for Scotty Scheffler. Congratulations to him on his fourth major victory over the weekend. If you saw Nike's ad,
it was off the chain.
It was awesome. If you saw, because he made some comments recently about how, winning's like not the end all be all for him in life. And Nike put out an ad, and one picture is him and his son on the golf course, and it says, "You've already won." And then the next part of it says, "But another major never hurt."
Never hurt.
It's pretty cool.
Any guess on what his net worth is?
I'm gonna guess at this point, like, I don't know, $60 million.
Just after the PGA Championship victory.
Yeah,
$110 million.
That's okay.
Yeah, congratulations, Scott.
He's doing pretty well there. Yeah, that's wow. And he is our age? Yeah, I don't.
Fresh 29. Yeah, like just turned 29 in June.
I got $110.
Yeah, you got that from the toothbrush.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true. So, yeah, but congratulations to Scotty Scheffler. Absolutely incredible performance for him yet again on the golf course. Quickly, did want to pass this information along as well. So we'll talk about this tomorrow, definitely, but you want to go ahead and put it on your calendar because later this evening, we are going to get some recruiting news, potentially in favor of either Alabama or Auburn. Auburn certainly seems to be the lean right now, though, and that would be for four-star edge rusher Jaquez Wilkes. So that's been a player that we've kind of had our eye on for a while now. He's been mentioned. I know Alabama and Auburn are both in, I guess, his final five, but I think Auburn, the team that certainly has been getting more of the love there from Wilkes, but that his commitment is going to be announced later on this afternoon. I believe it's around 4:30. And so that would be a big get, obviously, for either Alabama or Auburn, but certainly for Auburn, just trying to continue to piece together this recruiting class as we get closer and closer to the start of the season. So that's your big recruiting news for right now because, again, we were in the whirlwind of it a couple weeks ago. Now it's kind of died down, but potentially a good piece of news on the horizon for either Alabama or Auburn in the commitment of four-star defensive player Jaquez Wilkes that we will get later on this afternoon. Well, we asked the question at the beginning of the show, and it was with SEC Media SEC Media Days last week and everything you kind of got to hear from all these different teams, we found out how the media would vote in terms of what their projected order of finish for the league is. But what's the team that you can't seem to quite figure out this upcoming year? What's the one team that you're really intrigued by, but you can't figure out, man, do I think this team's going to, maybe be in the playoff conversation this year, or do I think that this team is going to be a bit of a disappointment when all things are said and done here at the end of the regular season? So we'll dive into that. We'll share how the media voted if you missed that on Friday, what the projected order of finish is in the Southeastern Conference, and then we'll hear from you, and me and Damon will share our picks as well for the one team in the SEC we just can't quite get a read on heading in to 2025. That's coming up next on Morning JOX. 6:33. Welcome back in Monday morning edition of Morning JOX. Conrad and Damien here alongside you until 7 o'clock when we will hand you off to McElroy and Kublick in the morning. But we want to answer the question that we posed here at the very beginning of the show, and a couple people already chiming in on the Courtesy GMC text line as well at 205-834-9450. And that question is, what is the team in the SEC that you just can't quite put your finger on this year? What team are you not sure if you're expecting them to have a really special season, you're expecting them to have a very disappointing season, or maybe, they're just going to be middle of the pack, but you just, for whatever reason, you can't quite figure out what to make of them. And this is based on just kind of going through how the media voted at Media Days last week and what their projections are for the upcoming season. So we'll get to ours here in just a second. But quickly, if you missed it on Friday, this is how the media, all 1,200-ish of us or so, voted when we cast our ballots at SEC Media Days in Atlanta. So starting from the top, you have Texas 1, Georgia 2, Alabama 3, then LSU, South Carolina, Florida, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, then Tennessee is 9, that's the back half, Tennessee 9, Oklahoma 10, Auburn's at 11, Then you have Missouri, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, Kentucky, and Mississippi State. So that is how the media voted. That is the projection for the SEC this year. If you missed it again, Alabama at 3, Auburn at 11. And so in that middle pack is kind of where I think a lot of these teams that we would be talking about would be. And I'm talking from that like 5 to, honestly, I think you could argue 5 through 14 in the SEC rankings. No offense to Kentucky, Mississippi State. If you think that one of them, you just can't really figure out, what they're all about, and you think that they might, surprise everybody and have a crazy good season, then, I'm happy to hear it. But I'm personally not there, and I don't think a lot of people are. But I think there's a lot of these teams that you could really, really, really kind of just be uncertain about. And like for me, my team, honestly, and I know the joke of, well, we know exactly what's going to happen with them, but like, I really don't know what to make out of a Texas A&M this year. I feel like Texas A&M, and you could say, okay, well, let's remember what happened the first, 9 or 10 weeks of last season, where we thought that, it was going to be potentially Texas and Texas A&M playing the last game of the regular season and then maybe playing again in Atlanta for the SEC championship. Obviously, Auburn stepped in and kind of took that possibility out of the equation for us. But I really don't know what to make of Texas A&M going into this season. And when you look at the teams ahead of them, like I'm infinitely more confident in South Carolina, Florida, and Ole Miss than Texas A&M. And a lot of that, I think, has to come down to quarterback play, right? I think the quarterback play you're going to get from those teams ahead of them is significantly better. But, in my opinion, the way I look at it right now, I think Auburn's probably a little bit better than Texas A&M. I think Oklahoma's better than Texas A&M. Now, based on their schedules and how the season plays out, it may not be reflected in the overall standings, but it's difficult for me to know what to make out of the situation, because I like Marcel Reed. I liked what I saw from him last year. But, is that a guy that you can see, really taking Texas A&M to that next level? I think defensively, you don't have a ton of questions with Texas A&M. They just kind of rinse and repeat a lot of times on that side of the ball. But, who's going to be your stud receiver on the outside? Like, you haven't had one of those guys in a while. Noah Thomas, he's now at Georgia. You have, Evan Stewart left a couple of years ago to go to Oregon. You're kind of looking to fill that gap at receiver. And I like Le'Veon Moss at running back, but he just found himself in a not great situation, which I don't know if that's going to impact his, availability this upcoming season, but I really like him, but it's just, okay, is that all that we're going to have? Is, okay, you're probably going to have a pretty solid offensive line. But you did lose one of your guys. I know Dewberry, he's going to Alabama. So you did lose, one of your pieces on the offensive line. Just outside of Marcel Reed and Le'Veon Moss, I don't totally know what to make out of Texas A&M this year. And again, I guess I'm not going to be surprised if we're talking about them in early November as, look for Texas A&M. If things go this way, if this team loses, maybe they'll find themselves with the chance to go to Atlanta again. But it's also hard for me to see them as anything other than, going 8-4. So it's just, they're that team that I just don't know what to make of them. I don't know how to make my mind up about what the Aggies are going to be this fall.
Missouri is the team for me because they finished 4th in the SEC last year, which is going back and looking at the SEC standings from last season. They
won 10 games 2 years in a row.
And is that now the expectation that Missouri has on themselves year in and year out? And a lot of it had to do with how comfortable Eli Drinkwitz was last week during SEC Media Days. He's on the last day. He was laid back, had a good time. And is it kind of just masking the confidence of, all right, well, we actually may not be that good, so I'm kind of like getting in front of it and make sure everybody doesn't really have that high of expectations for us. But, okay, when you look at, Missouri's 2 10-win seasons that they've had those stretches of, okay, they knocked off some top-tier teams, but also I saw what Alabama did to them last year as well as a top-ranked team. And at that point, they were top 25, and it's, okay, well, if they're losing Brady Cook, they're losing Luther Burden, where are they going to get this explosiveness from? But also, they've kind of flown under the radar and been a back-to-back 10-win team where it's, okay, yeah, it's almost like this luck is going to run out. But also, is this what Eli has built there in Missouri? So I kind of have this, I don't look at them as, like the 12th best team in the SEC, but I also don't look at them as one of those top 3 or 4 teams in the SEC either. They're in that middle ground. But also, if you told me that they were going to run off another 10-win season, I'm like, yep, okay, so yeah, Eli's building this thing up right. But also, if they have a 7-5, 6-6, just barely making it, I can see that as well. Like, I don't see them going under 500, but also I can see them being an average football team, and they'll be like, okay, well, this is where I thought they would be. But they're kind of that. To your point of 5-14, you could press shuffle against all those helmets, and you could tell me a reason why, a Tennessee could be the 5th best team in the SEC. You could tell me why Florida's there, why Arkansas could be there. Like there's a conversation to be had about all those teams, but I don't necessarily feel as confident as Missouri being at that top as I do, them being towards the bottom. But also, again, they finished 4th last year, so it's you kind of got to pick your poison with Missouri coming into the fall.
Yeah, I think Missouri's I think that's a great team to bring up in the conversation. And again, I look at them as, you bring up, okay, you're having to replace Brady Cook and Luther Burden and some of those guys. And I know, especially, looking at the wide receivers, I think that's going to be very difficult too when you throw in like Theo Weiss and what guys like that were able to do alongside Luther Burden. Because last year, at least, right, Luther Burden he wasn't bad necessarily, but it was different. It wasn't the Luther Burden you got 2 years ago where it was this guy's guaranteed to be a first-round pick. Obviously, we now know he wasn't a first-round pick. He was a second-round pick there in Chicago. But, I think you can get production at some of these spots where, again, I like Brady Cook. I thought Brady Cook was a pretty good quarterback the last couple of years. But I feel like that's the kind of guy you can bring in another quarterback that can replicate what Brady Cook was able to do. Now, I'm not saying it's easy or guaranteed that Bo Pribula or Sam Horn's going to be able to do that, but you're not replacing a Heisman winner at quarterback, right? Or somebody of that caliber. He's a very good quarterback, but I have confidence that Missouri can figure that out. I do think that Ahmad Hardy coming over from ULM, if anybody isn't aware, that's somebody too, just being at media days that a lot of people are very, very high on, and even people going, hey, don't be surprised if this is maybe like a Cody Schrader type year where this is a dude that, you look up in November and he's got 1,500 rushing yards and he might be, maybe, you don't view him as, oh, that's the best or, the most NFL-ready back out of the SEC, but the guy that's going to be leading the league in rushing yards at the end of the year. I know Brett Norfleet. I know at tight end. I know Cole's really, really high on him as well as some other people and what he can bring to kind of make that offense a little bit more dynamic as well. But, Missouri, they're just in a tough spot. They have a difficult schedule, and again, I think Missouri's a solid football team heading into the season. But they're just again, it's are they going to be better than they were the last couple of years? And I don't think that they will be. And again, when you're talking about these teams that are they'll be 12th in the SEC. I mean, that sounds harsh, but I'm still expecting you to go and win 7 games. Like you're going to a bowl game. You're going to have a chance to probably win 8 games at the end of the year. It's a difficult conference, man.
It is. But it also kind of sets the scene of how this fall is going to be. Like there's so many question marks for a lot of these teams, especially in that middle of the pack, that once conference play opens up, you got to be glued to your seat because, we saw it a little bit last year, even early on, the Kentucky knocking off an Ole Miss, Florida knocking off, LSU and things like that. We saw so much, and even, South Carolina keeping it as competitive as they did with Alabama this year, and now that game is in Columbia. How different do we feel about that game going into this fall? So you just don't really know, but that's what makes it so fun when the season gets here is the fact that, again, you got an Auburn team, that knocks off Texas A&M, situations like that when Texas A&M had everything to play for, everything was right there, the path was clear, and Auburn knocks them off, and then they follow that up with a loss to Texas. That I just think that the middle of the pack of the SEC, it's going to be complete carnage. It really is week to week, but that's what makes the league so fun.
I talked to somebody at Media Days last week who they said that their projection, their bold take for the upcoming season is that not a single team in the SEC wins 10 games. It's that there are 4 or 5 teams that go 9-3 and a lot of 8-4s. I do not see that happening. That is a very bold take, but yeah, there was somebody that is pretty well-respected member of the media that I was talking to that was like, oh, wow, that is a very bold take. It's like, man, it's so hard when you're going through every team's schedule to sit there and then you look at certain games that are, trap games, I guess you would say, and just the way the schedule works out. And it's a minefield for a lot of these teams, no doubt about it. A lot of question marks to go around. But hopefully that cleared some things up as Damien and I shared some of the teams that we just kind of can't get a read on for this upcoming season. But we want to hear from you now as well. 205-834-9450 there on the Courtesy GMC text line. Y'all are sending in your teams and your picks for the teams you just can't quite figure out. So we will read and react to those next here on JOX. Welcome back into Morning JOX. A few more minutes with Conrad and Damien before we hand you off to McElroy and Kublik in the morning. Cole Kublik on vacation this week, but Greg going to hold down the fort alongside Damien and John Saber, of course. And then we'll have three-man front coming up from 10 until 2. Landrum Roberts on vacation this week, so myself, Pat Smith, and Molly Robinson will be with you. And then, of course, Paul Feinbaum from 2 to 6. And then you have Braves and Giants. So jam-packed day, no reason for you to touch that dial here on JOX. But we've been asking the question, who's the team that you just can't quite figure out in the SEC heading into the fall? And we'll get to your text here in just a moment. But first, we have our buddy Deacon on the phone line. Deacon, how are we doing this morning?
Well, I was doing pretty good till I heard the Final Five. I got to say, being a Tennessee fan all this time and putting Tennessee in your Final Five after you put up all this stuff about who you were going to go with, Damien, I'm questioning you. And I'm just going to say, if you end up staying with Tennessee, I'm going to come dig a hole at your house, and it'll match my Vandy hole, and you can just reside there.
It'll just be the Tennessee holes. There you go. That's perfect.
That's right.
That's fine.
Now, as far as the team I can't get a beat on, those were two good teams y'all picked because you really don't know with schedule and everything which way they're going to go. But the one for me, neither one, A&M or Missouri, to me, do I think has a chance to make the playoff this year. The team to me that is just so confusing is Ole Miss. And I'll explain real quick. Jackson Dart, Austin Simmons, 6 and 1, half dozen of the other. I don't think Austin's going to have the numbers Jackson had. But the big thing to me is when you lose as much on the defensive side of the ball as Ole Miss did, could they make the 12-team playoff? Absolutely. Kiffin's a great coach. He's a great offensive mind. His offense is going to roll. But I question the defense. I can just as easily see them 7-5, 8-4 as I can 10-2 and in the college football playoffs. So Ole Miss is the team for me.
No, I think that's a great one, Deacon. We appreciate you chiming in this morning, as always, my friend. But no, I think Ole Miss is. See, my thing with Ole Miss though is, it's hard for me to expect them to do what they weren't able to do last year, which is make the playoff. With just everything's set up so perfectly for them, and I mean, like Deacon said, I have no really questions about the offense. I'm sure Austin Simmons is going to be awesome. It's just defensively, are we going back to? You have to score 45 points to win every game, right? That's the question.
That's the biggest question mark for Ole Miss is, you had probably the best defense you've ever had under Lane Kiffin last year, and you still, fell short. It's okay. Are they going to be close to replicating that defensively? Mm-hmm. Because I'm with you. Offensively, yeah, you're losing some pieces as far as receivers go. You got Caden Lee returning, but I do think Austin Simmons. I think Lane Kiffin has reached that point where
he'll figure it out.
Plug somebody in there, and we'll figure this thing out.
Yeah, no, I think they're going to be just fine in that regard. Yeah, but I think the defense definitely more question marks there. So let's go to the GMC text line now, where some of y'all have been sending in the teams that you can't quite get a beat on. And how about this one to start us off, Damien? Someone texted in, they say, Alabama is my biggest question mark in the SEC. They're unknown with an unproven quarterback. He doesn't even have 100 yards passing in a game. How are they going to be better than they were last year with 4 losses like that? Okay.
I lean more on the side of the guys that are in there now. You don't have to question if they want to be there. And I think they got their swagger back.
Let's see. Chris chimes in. He goes, I think Oklahoma's the team for me. I think it comes down to quarterback play. And it certainly does. And I think a lot of I mean, a lot of these teams, right, the biggest question mark is probably quarterback, whether it's either an unknown or, how big of a step someone might take in their second season. But look, I mean, we are big John Mateer fans here on this show, and I think he's going to be excellent, but I do think it's fair to question, can you do what you did at Washington State at Oklahoma? That's a lot different in the level of competition that you're going to face. So certainly can't really argue with that a whole lot. Let's see. Someone chimes in. They say, quickly, they said, I'm sorry, I was on vacation last week. Did Damian pick his team yet? Just curious, guys. No, but he did give his final 5, and it was Alabama, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Ole Miss, and was it LSU maybe?
No, Florida.
Florida. So that was his final 5 that he has right there. Let's see. Tim from Coleman says, I think Missouri's going to take a huge step back. I think they finished bottom 3 in the conference this year. Okay. Let's see. We have Alan. He chimes in. He says, South Carolina. I think South Carolina is absolutely a contender there because I think we all agree they could make the college football playoff, right? But is anyone going to be that shocked if they regress and are 7-5 at the end of the year? I don't necessarily think so. Joseph chimes in. He also goes Missouri. So a lot of you agreeing with Damian there this morning. But appreciate the conversation. Just a fun little conversation about the SEC and what to expect this upcoming season. We will continue to get you ready for college football season right here on JOX. We're back tomorrow, 6 a.m. here on your Tuesday morning. But right now, we hand things off to McElroy and Kubelik in the morning.